Okay, welcome back. In this one, I think I said I was going to we're going to replicate GitHub pages, so which is static site hosting directly out of a code repository. I'm not sure how useful this is going to be if you're doing like a personal stack, but I could see, if you want to build a project and have some artifacts or some um, build notes or release notes, if you don't want to do them with releases or whatever, you could publish them to a repository or a specific branch in a repository, and then pages will automatically basically reference those and then render them as a static site. So it's doable. The usefulness is up to you, but again, I'm trying to replicate all the different major GitHub services in this GitHub in a box all-in-one dev kit. So here we go. Um, like we start off a lot of these, we're going to start with Git as our default admin user. We'll go to administration, identity access, user accounts. We'll create a user account for Codeberg. So we're going to use Codeberg, specifically their pages server, in order to do this. And these things are not very well documented on how to self-host, but we'll get it done. So we'll go to username as email address. So I'm just going to say codeberg@example.com. Password, give it a password. Don't need to change it. We'll save it. And for this one, we don't need to create an application, but we do need to create a token. And for this one, I'm not going to create a project token. I'm going to create sort of a global token for the user. Because what's going to happen is the Codeberg application is going to use this token to access the get to your repositories, find the repository that you're pointing at, and then render the static site out of it. So that said, I'm going to go into sign out of my user. I'm going to sign as Codeberg. Right. I'm going to go to settings, applications, and we're going to create a token. We're going to call this Codeberg. We'll give it repository access for everything, and all we really need is read repository. That's it. So we'll copy that one down for posterity. I don't need those anymore. Okay, that's all I necessarily need to do. I can go ahead and sign out and back in as my personal user. And from here, we're going to go I'm going to go to my compose file, and we are going to copy in our configuration. Okay, Codeberg. So we'll paste it in, and I'll go through it. So that's our service profile. I just called it pages. I don't know why I called it that instead of Codeberg, because it's sort of like GitHub pages. And full image. Here we use that one. Again, you could pin the version if you want to. Hostname, network. We're going to publish on port 8443. You can give it a different port if you want to. We're starting to run out of ideas. Codeberg kind of works a particular way. It's really meant for like public internet and to be. It has its own. Uh, it fetches its own certificates from. I think it's from Let's Encrypt. And so it does all this automatically. I didn't really want to get into the weeds of hacking the source code to get it to quit doing that. So unfortunately, all of these are going to be insecure. You're welcome to try and puzzle it out on your own, how to get to stop, but this will get it functional at least. So it's going to be using Acme to get and fetch the certs and whatnot. So I'm going to tell it to automatically accept the terms. It's doing mock certificates. So this is not to be considered secure, but for your own personal setup, it's probably fine. We taught how to find Git, and then this API token we'll reference here in a second. I'm just calling this Codeberg as my domain. So that's that. Custom domains take a little bit more work. And port 8443. And the same thing about restart policy and dependency on git. That's all we need to do. We'll go to our environment file and copy in, well, what was the name of that? There we go. CB. You can call these things whatever you want to. I kind of prefixed them. That made sense to me. But you do what you need to do. Okay. This was that token that we created for Codeberg. And that's really about it for the configuration on it. So we'll go ahead and launch this. So Docker Compose, profile, pages, up-d, and not doesn't really do much for us on the logs. So hopefully it started up okay. We can actually kind of figure this out. We'll get an error, but you can kind of see what we're going to do. I'm going to say there's different ways you can structure these, but say dqueen.codeberg/pages. That's not what it's supposed to be at all. Actually, this is supposed to be HTTPS. That's another thing. It kind of enforces HTTPS. It's not going to find it because there's nothing there. So let's give it something to actually find. I'm going to, like I said, you can host these things in an existing repo, and then you can create a branch called pages. There's different ways you can create a repository for a specific user just called pages. You can look at the documentation. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. I'm going to actually create a repository just called pages. And we're going to create the repo. Yeah, so, or you can create a branch called pages in an existing repo, so you can kind of figure out either one. I'll create a new file. I'm just going to call this index.html. And I'll paste in some boilerplate, nothing special, basic HTML file. We'll go ahead and commit it. Okay. So we have that now. So what I should be able to do is, let's try this again. HTTPS, so it's your username dot, oh, I know why. I forgot the port. Port 8443. And then the repository, and you can add the branch too if it's in a branch. And like I said, this is not really HTTPS. These certs aren't real. You're going to get this warning. You can figure out how to do it on your own, but just show and proceed, and there you go. It's static. It's a static site. So if I were to add more stuff, images, CSS, the whole, all the works, I can essentially publish a static site merely by making commit changes here. So, I mean, I can do uh, you know, I mean, it's nothing special here. But theoretically, I should be able to. There is a cache on these. I want to say it's a few minutes. So you have to wait a few minutes to see this live. Uh, just for kicks, I'm going to say. I'm just gonna bounce the service just so we can see. Yeah, you get the idea. So, I mean, you got to wait a few minutes, and I think you can configure the cache timeout. And there's a way to invalidate the cache too by hitting an API endpoint, all that kind of stuff. But you get the idea. I mean, this basically lets you do static site hosting straight out of your code repositories. Kind of curious here. I have a repository for test repo. I'm gonna try something real quick. Um, Let's do this more the old-fashioned way. Yeah, I got time. I already have it. I'm just creating a really basic HTML page, nothing fancy. Add. Oops. Branch tip is behind. What? Thought I did a pull. What? Oh, it didn't do it. All right, so I thought I did a pull. Okay, so what did I call this? Oh, yeah. Um, don't like that. Invalid upstream master. Oh, the main. There we go. All right, that's better. So, where was I at? Get status, get push origin pages. Okay, little interruption. Let's say we push to pages. So the idea here is that now we push to the pages branch, which actually has this on it. This just shows one of the features, if this works. So now, instead of going to the pages repo, we're going to go to test repo. And sometimes this works. I guess it's not finding it because it should pick it up on that actual default pages branch. Not found. Okay, I had just forgotten about the cache timeout on this thing. So I come over here. Oops. Okay, well, I did some digging, and I think that function only works when you're using Codeberg's solution. Otherwise, it just uses the default branch, and which our default branches are going to be main, I want to say. If I go to maybe it's settings here, repository. I don't know if there's a way to set it. Let's see. There's a default wiki branch. I don't know. Well, either way, I think it's if you don't specify, it's going to serve it out of the main branch. So either way, it's fine. Like that doesn't work. You could actually specify the branch here, and it works. I thought it would just automatically default to pages as the branch. I think that works for custom domains, but like I said, this is kind of a somewhat hacky solution. But either way, you get the idea. The whole thing works, and you can use it as is. Okay, so that's enough for replicating this functionality. On the next one, we are going to look at installing a service for static code analysis. So that way you can get sort of grading on your code bases if you want, and to see how well it stacks up using SonarQube. So every time we make a push, it's gonna basically analyze your repository and grade your code base for you. So anyways, that's enough for this time. We're a little over 15 minutes. So we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.